network promoting equal rights for people from sexual and gender diverse communities. In this role, Anan was instrumental in organizing the first Pride event in Laos, which garnered him the title from the Huffington Post as the leader of the country's LGBTIQ plus movement. In Laos, IRI supported Proud to Be Us Laos since August 2020 to pilot a peer education program network for LGBTIQ plus rights activists and young, non-civically engaged, sexually and gender diverse community members. Through these workshops, Proud to Be Us empowers participants to advocate for LGBTIQ plus rights within their communities.
It's my honor to attend this panel discussion along with my fellow LGBTI advocates from Taiwan and Bangladesh. It is a wonderful day for us. Well, before I speak about what we've been doing in terms of diversity and inclusion in the Lao PDR, today is a really good day because it's the 9th year anniversary of Proud to Be Us Laos. So really happy to speak about this cause. We started to talk about this issue for the very first time in the Lao PDR. So since then, we are Proud to Be Us Laos, myself and my friends and friends from the community, we continue working on this issue to keep the momentum and then shout out for this topic in Laos. And we also marked the first Hot Day, International Day Against Homophobia, Transphobia, and Biphobia, with the help from international development partners like European Union and other foreign embassies. So since 2015, we've been celebrating this reception, this day, ever since. And in 2019, we managed to have 16 foreign embassies attended this event. So it's very something special and very encouraging, motivating for us to keep talking about this issue. And I want to highlight a few works that we are proud to share with you guys. The first one is that we also produced the first ever research called Being LGBTI at Work. So we worked with National University, especially Faculty of Law and Political Science. So this is the first research ever conducted with in collaboration with the government. So this is a great hope for the people in the community to use this research as an advocacy tool with our government partners. And most recently, we also got involved with a very important work with the Lao Youth Union. Lao Youth Union is equivalent to Ministry of Youth Affairs in Laos. And we were invited to participate to get involved in the drafting of the first ever National Youth Strategic Plan 2019 to 2030. So this is the first time that member of the LGBTI community got opportunity to speak out and then brainstorm what needs to be done in terms of youth development. So we're really grateful for our government for their efforts and their understanding. I know that it is something very not talked about in the Lao PDR, but I think my government is making a lot of efforts to understand what is the issues that these people are facing, encountering in their daily life. And the last one, of course, we received the support from IRI to establish the first SOGI peer education program. So this is the first time for us to, recruit young people and then teach them about the rights that they have or understanding why we need to work on LGBT rights, why LGBTI rights matter in the civic engagement and political engagement or, democratic society. So we we really want them to understand this root cause why we're doing this. And we also partner up with the Vientiane Youth Center, which is one component of the Lao Women's Union, or Ministry of Women Affairs, or something like that. So this is something that I'm really proud to share with all you guys, and we're very thankful for the support from IRI and also from friends that know who they are and have been supporting us since the very beginning until now.
Thank you so much, Anan. And we'll just head to Shail now to answer, and then I'll introduce our next panelist, Sean. So Shail, same question to you, which is how have you helped build a more inclusive society in Bangladesh by promoting the rights of sexually and gender diverse individuals? More sustainable development, more resilient, citizen-centered governance. So with that, we'd like to ask our panelists to take about 3 minutes each to answer what is the importance of LGBTIQ plus voices participation in political and civic engagement. And we'll start with Anan.
Well, I think LGBT voices or participation are paramount to the comprehensive national development of the nation, as well as, civic engagement, because we simply represent every man and woman, starting from cleaning up the window, being the chef, being policemen, nurses, doctors, professors, lawyers. So LGBTI people represent everybody, every man and woman. So their voices and participation matter in the comprehensive development. And I think that it is just unquestionable. It is just something that we should naturally understand why it does matter. So, but I know that is not an easy thing to talk about this issue in every geopolitical context. I'm sure that maybe in some countries it's easy, like in Taiwan. I think your country is a wonderful example for many things. But I think in some countries we still start with a very basic thing. Start with the easy thing like what is sexual orientation and gender identity. So it should start with the 101. And I think as advocates, I do believe that we should understand the political context of our country and how we tackle particular issues in the most, possible manner, if you like. So yes, I think building an understanding is something that seems to be a very baby step for countries that just started talking about LGBTI involvement in national development or civic and political engagement, like Lao PDR. Our approach is to build a solid connection with our government and then try to go in line with the national development policies. For example, I just mentioned about our involvement in the first ever national youth strategic plan of the Lao Youth Union. So this is something that we will try to engage with our governments and civil societies and international development, like the United Nations, like IRI, like several international friends, because we can impart or use the best practices from other countries, and then we will see how we can use that into a local intervention. So that is what we've been trying to do in Proud to Be Us Laos. And one thing that I want to exchange is that I think regardless of what we believe or or attracting same-sex or gender doesn't make us less liberal or less conservative. I think it is something that enshrined in the nature of human being. So I think that the more solidarity, the more we come together and talk about new issue, is a pathway to the sustainable development. Because if you look at the SDGs, you will see that some SDGs talk about gender equality and talk about building peace. So I think that LGBTI voices, are paramount to national development or even the global development. I think that it's just it's not the beginning, but you can say that it's beginning for many states, for many countries that just starting talking about this. So this is what I want to highlight about in your question, Mariel.
Thank you so much. I would love to hear, not only how you think we can move forward better with creating, connecting the United States with these local activists, but also how you've done it in the past as well. So with that, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Mariel. Well, I think from Stonewall riots to the AIDS Coalition to Unleash Power Act Up, the U.S. has shown the world a great lesson learned in terms of democratization and human rights advocacy. I think because of that work in the last 40, 50 years ago, and then we are doing this because I think that the world connects, interconnects with each other. And now every countries are working on that as well to make the country or the society a better place. So I think that having said that, I think U.S. government and U.S. INGOs or CSO have to continue working and supporting the local CSOs in every countries that they work with, irrespective of the government to government relationship or organization to organization or civil society to civil society ties. So I think that the U.S. should continue doing that because LGBTI is not just, when you work with LGBTIs, you don't just work with LGBTI, but as I said at the beginning, we represent every man and woman in the national development. So once the model is established, for example, like Proud to Be Us Laos, we kind of know how to navigate to work on LGBT rights. And then once it's successful, we can also, introduce this model to women participation in development or children participation in development or youth empowerment. So I think that the U.S. should continue working on this. I think that is, if we just look at LGBTI, it sounds very narrow, right? Like, okay, LGBTI. But actually, I think that is a pathway to a holistic development approach. And one more thing that I want to highlight is that the PEPFAR that the U.S. support the world, including LAPDR, is also a way for us, LGBTI community, to get involved in the AIDS movement, in the AIDS prevention work. And my government just included the LGBTI community in the National Strategic Plan on HIV/AIDS prevention. So there is something that impressive that the U.S. has been helping in a number of programs. So I think that and other countries maybe you can have the example from Proud to Be Us Laos as well. Like we simply started very small with the help of the U.S. Embassy to organize a small event and then, start something small and then it can become an organization or a center for LGBTI people or whatever target groups of community can rely on or can pour up their solidarity in national development. So yes.
Thank you so much, Anan. That was really interesting, and I really liked everything you had to say too about, it's not just about LGBTIQ plus people, it's about everyone. And
Yeah.
This is something that's important to keep considering as we discuss all these conversations during Pride Month about rights and advocacy in this sector. Jeff, please address the panelists.
Sure. Good evening to the panelists in Asia, and a special hello to my friend Saleh in Dhaka. Great to see you. Question, about SOGI activism, which tends to be dominated by activists who are middle class, urban, based in the capital city. So I'm wondering how your organizations try to reach SOGI populations outside of the capital, who might be low income, might have less access to the internet, less educated. So how do you kind of diversify your activism with the SOGI populations in your countries?
That's a fantastic question, Jeff. And we'll hand it over to Anan first, and then we'll go to Shail and Sean. And please keep your answer short so we can have at least one more question before we have to end the session.
Okay. Well, thank you for your question. I think this is not the first time that I've been asked this question. I speak for Proud to Be Us Laos, and our goal is to work from the top to bottom, because we want to, we want to work with the policymakers to understand what is going on in the ground, because the policymakers are the one who have the most, power to identify any kind of programs in the country. So I think that there are some organizations who are working from the bottom up, with the grassroots community. We want to work with the grassroots community as well, but we don't want to duplicate with other organizations. So we just work with the policymakers and try to let them understand the concerns and problems from the people from the ground. So we kind of speak both languages, community languages, and the policymaker languages to get the two meet. So this is our intervention. Yeah.
Thank you, Anna. That's a great example of the governance feedback loop and really showing how CSOs are really instrumental in sharing the voices of people who are on the ground, whether they be rural or urban. Where we have the question of how religious leaders are involved in supporting LGBTIQ plus movements and activism, and if there's any representatives in government that are supporters, allies, or activists within the LGBTIQ plus movement and what they're doing.
Well, thank you for your question. I think the first question, as I said in the beginning, is still very new to the Lao PDR to talk about LGBTI rights, because according to the Article 35 and 37 of the Lao Constitution, they say that every Lao citizens are equal to the law, and we don't classify, or we don't say that okay, you are LGBTQI, but as long as you are Lao people, and no matter what you believe, no matter what you represent, you are equal. So I think there are some religious leaders, or we can say a monk, because we are the Buddhist country. There are some people who want to help, because according to our religion, we don't really discriminate anyone on the ground of sexual orientation and gender identity, as long as you have a faith in what we believe, then it's fine. So to answer your question, unfortunately, we don't have an official, structure or organization talking about this issue yet. But as we believe that everyone is helping each other, like I said, solidarity and understanding is paramount, is important for us in Laos. And the second question, I think the member of the parliament or parliamentarians are now, they don't talk about this issue out loud yet. But in 2020 last year, we organized the eval day, the day that gender-based violence for women, something like that. And we invited member of the National Assembly to attend, and then she accepted the invitation, and she even talked about the inclusion of LGBTQI people in the national development. So I think that Lao PDR, we are beginning to talk about this issue, as it's evident that LGBTQI people are facing issues. For example, HIV, I think in Lao PDR we have, if you look at the subgroup, the highest infection rate is men who have sex with men. They don't say LGBTI, but they say MSM. So I think our country are beginning to tackle this issue and involve people from the community into the peaceful and dialogue with the government. Yes.